Hi, good morning. I am here on Marjan Hill. I escaped the US 2 years ago. I now live in Split, Croatia. And I have a tip for you as you are doing your search for a place to move abroad. It is extremely important that whatever you do, if you work remotely, you must secure that job. And by that, I mean you need a permanent contract or a contract for a length of time. So if you're planning to be away for 6 months, then a 6 month contract or a 12-month contract at least. You know your finances, but please, please hear me. I was told in January that my position over here was fine. I got full on confirmation from the HR department that they would extend my staying abroad, and they even paid their lawyer, and you know lawyers are not cheap, those corporate lawyers, they paid them to go and look just to make sure that another year wasn't going to be a tax liability, which it's not, because I'm on the same type of digital nomad visa here in Croatia. But I'm just letting you know, guys, that 2 months later they let me go due to corporate restructuring. So I am now living abroad with no job. And it's not like people are going to hire me remotely from here. You know, what American company wants to do that now? They barely want to hire you remotely where you're living. So just be
Prepared. That's the key word here. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. As you know, I'm the sensitive traveler, and I couldn't resist sharing this information with you all because it is vital for those of you who are going to be working remotely for a US based company. It is important that you prepare for the event that you may be let go. In 2024, thousands of Americans lost their jobs across numerous industries. Many of them were remote jobs, and also many of the jobs that people held on to are going to be changing and going back to the office in 2025. As you heard there, I was unexpectedly laid off right after they told me that I could stay another year. So it was quite a shock. And needless to say, it's one thing to be laid off, it's another thing to be laid off while you're in another country. The majority of the labor contracts in the US are what we call at will employment agreements. They are, in fact, not technically contracts because they promise you nothing. They're just a way for that company to sign off all liability from you when they fire you at any time for any reason without any notice, and most of the time without any guarantee of severance. The reality of remote work right now is shifting dramatically. I know many people who were already living abroad, working remotely, who lost their jobs this year. If you are working for a US company, if you are not self employed, if you are not an IT specialist, or let's say a teacher where you have a contract, there are some jobs in the US that give you job contracts, but those are very rare. The majority of us are going to be given that at will employment agreement. So, what I suggest that you do is ask the company that's going to be allowing you to work abroad for some type of a secure job agreement for the period of time that you'll be gone. And that can look like a document that they type up that says, from this period to this period, we are saying you are allowed to work abroad remotely and that your job is secure during that time. The likelihood of that depends on many factors. As we know, most of the companies nowadays are owned by corporate shareholders, so they all prefer the at will employment agreement because at any time they like to restructure and they don't want to have to promise you anything. So, like I said, if you're not a specialist, though, this is going to be your type of employment. So, you want to be prepared with enough saving to get through unemployment. What I'm about to tell you is something that I haven't heard anyone else say. With all the excitement over the years of people leaving and all the digital nomads and everybody making a bunch of videos, kind of painting the picture that everything is so easy once you get abroad. I'm not going to do that because that is not that is not helpful. I want you to make an informed decision. I spent hours, I mean, it feels like hundreds of hours researching before I left the US. And I don't feel like I was able to make an informed decision because people left out important information. So I decided that if I were ever to go ahead and start a channel, that I was going to provide as much information as I can. When you are living abroad and working for a US company and you get laid off, you are not legally allowed to receive your unemployment benefits as long as you are outside of the US. And when you're living abroad in another country on a digital nomad visa or some other form of temporary residence permit, you are not allowed to seek employment in that country. So clearly, it's going to put you in a very precarious position. Make sure that you have an emergency fund set aside in a savings account that you don't regularly access or touch to pay bills or take cash withdrawals out. And of course, connecting with other digital nomads and your friends and family while you're abroad will help you have the support that you need mentally and emotionally to handle this type of a transition. One of the things that most people are not clear on at this point is the amount of remote work jobs that people expect to be available in the next few years. I'm seeing things in business magazines and online forums where people are saying that about 80% of the CEOs at this point expect remote work to pretty much disappear within 3 years. And of course, I'm talking about the ones who had remote work offered after COVID, right? Everyone who could work remotely pre-COVID, well, they're going to be able to continue to do that. But for those of us who discovered the opportunity to work from home and then another location in another country for the first time in our lives, we are going to be facing a real serious shortage that has already started. Now that you're aware of the realities of remote work and the fact that it's probably not going to be available to the majority of us in the next few years the way that we had hoped, there is a solution. I highly recommend starting your own online business or multiple businesses so that you can have diverse income streams available to you no matter where you are in the world. Being self-employed is the future of remote work. Keep in mind that you can start your own business while you're back in the United States, even if you're working for another company. That way you can file all of the documents and obtain your tax ID number, etc., before you leave. You can do it once you're living abroad. It just takes a little more work because many of the government websites that you'll need to access won't be available to you when you're trying to view them from an IP address outside of the US. So you'll need to use a VPN, and it can be a little bit more complicated. If you're going to have your own business and be working outside of the state that you're living in, you're going to need a registered agent in that state. There are plenty of companies who offer that service. You just pay an annual fee and they will accept important legal documents for your business on your behalf. While you might have a mail forwarding service send you your mail while you're living abroad, you legally are obliged to have a registered agent, an office location that is open during regular business hours where at any time they can go and serve papers. So it's just part of being a business owner in the United States. I encourage you to look at all of your opportunities, but I just want to make sure that you are taking all of the precautions so that your move abroad will be as successful and as rewarding as it can be. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you found this information helpful. Please like and subscribe. Don't forget to leave a comment. Let me know if you're currently living abroad and you've lost your job as well. What are some of the plans that you have in place for your move abroad if you haven't gone anywhere yet? And any questions that you might have. And until next time, I wish you all a wonderful day wherever you are in the world.